Eagles. Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody. It's game day. It's week number 2 of the NFL, and the Eagles are set to take on the Kansas City Chiefs for the Super Bowl rematch here in week number 2 of the NFL. We are at Arrowhead Stadium today for a 4:25 p.m. kickoff. I'm joined now by Dan Sileo and John McMullen here for the JAKIB Pregame Show. Johnny Mac, Sills, how you guys doing on this game day week 2 edition? Sills, I'll start with you, brother.
Man, I'll tell you, you're going into one of the loudest places on the planet. If you know anything about Arrowhead, it's one of those old AFL stadiums where, like, the stands and then the sidelines, you have no room in there, so the crowd's like right on top of you. It is really one of the greatest environments. I would say second probably to Lambeau Field. That's one of the great places to go and watch a football game. And you get a rematch of the Super Bowl 9 months ago. Should be kind of an interesting game, but boy, I just don't see Kansas City in this game with a lot of firepower that they've had over the last few years. So it should be an interesting ball game, though.
No doubt about it. Arrowhead Stadium. Johnny Mac, how you feeling on this week 2, brother? Eagles, Chiefs today at Arrowhead, a 90-plus degree weather game.
91 degrees. Not as humid as they expected, so maybe that helps a little bit. But, yeah, that's all anybody talks about. Dan's right about the noise in that place. I was talking to Jordan Mailata this week. He said it's like tinnitus, it's like you get ringing in your ears. That's how loud it can get. But, easiest way, I would say some of the home field advantages, some of the best. Arrowhead's been it. Lincoln Financial Field is among that now with the Eagles and their winning percentage. Lambeau Field, Sills mentioned. It's funny. I always joke, Lambeau Field, there was no home field advantage between Bart Starr and Brett Favre. In fact, they used to play half their season in Milwaukee because they didn't care. They were going to lose wherever they played. Same thing with Kansas City. When Todd Haley was there, when Nick Sirianni was an assistant, Todd Haley was there and Romeo Crennel was there. There's no home field advantage because they stunk. The teams... Now, the environment helps when you have a really good team. Obviously, in Kansas City's had a very good team for a very long time, but it does seem that they're on a descent. And this is a cyclical industry, and you have talent, you have ups and downs, and it looks like Kansas City's on a little bit of a downward trend to me.
How about this, John? One of the things, like you mentioned, look at New England. I mean, that thing went on for 20 years, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And now you're getting, and this may be a shorter run. However, as long as you have that quarterback 15 in the building, you're going to be able to go through maybe those ebb and flows of being able to build the talent back up. Because remember, there was a 10-year gap in the middle
I was going to say that.
of Brady's career where, again, if they get it right, start bringing some more talent. But I'm with John, man. I'll tell you, that's not the same roster. When you start losing people like Snead, Honey Badger, you start going down the list of the people that they've lost on that football team. Tune going up to Chicago now. They're not adding guys. They're losing.
Yeah, they're also missing some guys today, Sills, and we'll talk about that here in a second. John, I'm going to come to you and get the inactives. But a couple things I want to point out for everybody listening to the pregame show. I want to thank everybody for being here on a game day week 2 edition. Don't forget to hit that like button. It's great to see everybody on this Sunday afternoon. If the Eagles are able to win today, which I think all three on the screen right now believe they have a good chance to do so, it will be a little bit unprecedented. Patrick Mahomes has never lost 3 games in a row in his career. He lost the Super Bowl. Now, I'm not a fan of going back to the previous season, but people do it anyway. He lost week 1 and now looks potentially to start 0-2, and that would be the other unprecedented thing here. The Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes have never lost or have never started the season 0-2. So we will see how they're able to do in this matchup today. John, coming right to you with the inactive report. What's the update on the inactives? I saw the Eagles put it out just a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah, well, no surprise. Obviously, Dallas Goedert was ruled out. Will Shipley were ruled out. So that part of it, positive Tanner McKee's getting closer to being, he's the emergency quarterback. So he is going to be available in an emergency situation if Jalen Hurts and Sam Howell are both unable to play. So he's getting closer, and I expect him to be the backup probably by next week. So we'll see how that shakes out. And then the rest of the inactives, similar to last week. I have no idea why the Eagles are carrying so many edge rushers, but Azeez Ojulari and Obo are inactive again as they were in week one. Drew Kendall, the rookie offensive lineman, inactive again. So that's your group of inactives. And what that means is that Zadarius Smith is going to play. And I think he's going to play quite a bit in obvious pass rushing situations. And Tank Bigsby's going to play. I don't know how much on offense for Tank, but I do think he'll get involved in the kick return game, which has become all of a sudden a big deal in the NFL with the rule change. 76% of kickoffs were returned in week one. That's up from 33% last year. So massive change from that perspective. And both of those guys, even though they've been here for less than a week, are going to play today.
Yep, interesting stuff there. Big Sills, coming right to you. Before I get into the questions about some of the matchups on your mind, Sills, what are your expectations for Zadarius Smith today? First game, obviously, with the Birds. I think he was traded Friday after week one, so he's been here just around 9 days in Philly. What are your expectations for him? You think that edge room is going to be better?
Well, yes, I do. And obviously, I think he's a better player than anything they have right now in the building. So, however, being said, if he's a younger player, like look at Micah Parsons, right? They're even ramping a 25, 26-year-old Micah Parsons up just to show you because he missed almost all of training camp. Now you're talking a north of 30-year-old guy. Right. That might take a little longer. Some guys are different. I mean, it really is all about the individual. How much conditioning was he doing because he wasn't in training camp? Now, look, he's a veteran guy. He doesn't need the looks, but he needs the reps. And I'm talking football conditioning reps, not seeing looks, not seeing backfield sets. So you're going to have to know are you going to put him in first and second down? Are you going to put him in third down? Remember, rushing the passer today, because of the lack thereof of a running game in Kansas City, you may be in nickel in this football game over 70% of the time. I mean, you're going to see, I think, a lot of pass rushing going on in this game because Pacheco and those guys, they have not shown where they are able, that Charger game, they weren't able at all to get any kind of running game going in that game. So they're going to have to go to intermediate pass, which means a lot of pass rushing. So what kind of rotation, like John said, dude, if you got 7 edge rushers, you ain't got any edge rushers. I mean, last year you won the Super Bowl with 3 dudes that got after folks. Now you got 7 after Hunt and Smith. You know, the wild card here is definitely Smith here. So, John, you said something, Zander.
Go ahead, Tom.
Go along the line. John said something during the week on Birds 365 that I think is important to keep an eye on today. And that is this. It's not about Landon Dickerson starting. It's him finishing the game. I thought he was at times a liability in that football game against the Cowboys. And I really thought the Cowboys held their own on both sides of the football. You lose Carter, obviously, but you had an injury to Landon Dickerson. I thought that was a factor on keeping that game a fourth-quarter game. Kansas City wants to make this a fourth-quarter football game, and that's going to be important to keep an eye on is Landon Dickerson's health.
Yeah, obviously, and he's struggling with that. John, what are your thoughts on that, on Landon Dickerson today? I know you had a lot of comments on that during the week. He is set to go today with the injury to the knee and the back. Your thoughts, John, on Landon Dickerson coming into this one?
Yeah, to Dan's point, I mean, well, I said it during the week. It's not starting because, Landon's going to play through stuff. If I had to pick a toughest guy on this team, it's going to be Landon Dickerson always first. He will play through anything if you let him and if he's capable of even walking out there. The question is, does he finish? He wasn't able to finish last week. Brett Toth had to come in, play 10 or 11 snaps. But to Dan's point, I think is more important. He didn't play well. You're talking about when this guy's healthy, you're talking about one of the best, arguably the best left guard in football, certainly in the conversation. He did not play well against the Cowboys, who had a pretty good pass rush, even though it was undisciplined and even though they didn't have a good plan and Jalen Hurts gouged it off schedule. Bottom line is they were getting pressure. And one of the guys who struggled in pass protection specifically was Landon Dickerson, and he typically doesn't struggle there. So that tells me the back's not 100%. The knee, he's cleared from the knee. But again, you don't know how that affects you. Is he favoring the knee a little bit, and then all of a sudden he's tweaking the back? So, it's not only about Landon Dickerson being out there, it's about Landon Dickerson finishing, and it's about Landon Dickerson playing like Landon Dickerson, which he did not do in week 1.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see in that one. Big Show's coming back to you, brother. Key matchups in this game. We just kind of talked about some of the good ones on the line of scrimmage, but coming into this game as the Eagles, you're the favorite, and the Chiefs are not underdogs often at their home turf. I think this is only
2 times.
Right, this is the second time. They lost the first time they were. That was versus the Buffalo Bills in a hard-fought game there. What are the kind of the keys to the game here if you're the Eagles to come in and handle the Chiefs on their
Well,
game?
let me expand on what John just said. Who else struggled in that offensive line because of Landon Dickerson not being healthy? That was Gordon Alada. He got ran around by a very good player, but not an exceptional player. This Karlaftis guy that they got from Purdue a couple of years ago, I want to see how they're going to play him, because there's no doubt Steve Spagnuolo is not coming into this football game with the same game plan that he had in that.
I hope not.
Hey, John. But what I do think Johnny's going to do, I do think that Matt Eberflus had a hell of a football game this past weekend. So I think you're going to see a lot of that bracket coverage stuff, because let's be candid here, man, because of the injuries in the O-line. Hey, the running back and the 2 wide receivers were taken out of that football game and that Cowboy game in the opener. Yeah. I mean, they were non-factors. Barkley had under 70 rushing, and you had 4 targets to both DeVonta Smith and also to A.J. Brown. Now, will they try overcorrecting? Does that mean they hold the ball and they try to get the ball down the field? I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how Jalen Hurts attacks the secondary, because outside of McDuffie, who do they really have back there in Kansas City? KC's got to get pressure. So I think it really is going to be that front. And I'll say this to you. My money's on Chris Jones against Tyler Steen. I'm sorry. I mean, that guy's still the preeminent defensive tackle in pro football right now. And if you got an ailing Dickerson and you've got a brand new dude over on the right side, okay, that's not the same football team 9 months ago. Now, look, they're limited in spots, Kansas City, but they do have some advantages. And I think Chris Jones an advantage over Tyler Steen.
I agree. John, what do you think Spags does today in this game?
Well, he is. I mean, there's certain things you're going to get from Spags, and that's third down pressure. If he's got you in the situation, so that part of it, he is going to blitz. That's a big part of who he is as a defensive coordinator. But you got to get the Eagles in a position. So I think that's what you have to learn most from Dallas. It's important to be aggressive. Chris Jones talked about this during the week. It's important to be aggressive, but you got to be very disciplined against the Eagles, specifically teams like the Eagles, Josh Allen type quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson. You got to be Caleb Williams, you saw it on Monday night, even a guy who's not really there yet as a quarterback, but he can really hurt you with his legs if you're not disciplined. So that's very important. And the minute you take the wrong rush lanes, I saw it in college football yesterday, all over the place. They take a step inside. There's the quarterbacks out the back door. There's so many dual threat quarterbacks in this league. Jalen Hurts destroyed the Cowboys with that. Chiefs have to learn from that. So they have to be aggressive. They have to be themselves, but they have to make sure he's penned up. And then obviously they have to learn from the Super Bowl and the fact that you just can't sell out to stop Saquon Barkley, because then you're going to get gouged by the receivers. And, Dallas did a good job. You have to give them credit. They did a good job with that part of it. They loaded the box and played basically bracketed A.J. Brown over the top. I think they might copy that, but we'll have to see how it shakes.
I'll tell you this, Zander. One thing I would take a page out of is what Patrick Mahomes did to the 49ers a couple years ago in the Super Bowl. And if you're going to do something, what's the one thing that Mahomes didn't do in that Super Bowl 9 months ago? He didn't improvise, and he didn't do what John just said that Jalen did in that Cowboy game. Go off script. Those 65 yards rushing that he had in the game is what brought them back in that Super Bowl and forced that fifth quarter. So to me, I think Mahomes actually has to take off more to compromise for that run game because he's got to do, I think, a little more off-script stuff. He didn't do that. He sat back in the pocket.
Did he not do that because of him, or did he not do that because that defensive line was just terrorizing that game?
They were containing him, okay? And to John's point, the reason they brought 7 dudes in, Huss, they're concerned about setting the edge on one side. I do think Nolan can, but I think they're still questioning whether Jalen Hurts can. And that's why they've had this conveyor belt of defensive ends and edge rushers out there because Mahomes is going to have to make plays, not just with his fabulous arm, but he's going to have to make plays off script like Jalen Hurts to make the chains move, in my opinion, in this game. If they want to make it a fourth quarter game, he has to run the ball.
I agree. Let's stay right on this side of the ball, guys. John, I'm going to come to you here. Secondary was a big thing that was talked about from week one, John. Obviously, Adoree Jackson, he was kind of taken to the woodshed a little bit going up against CeeDee Lamb and those Cowboys receivers. Now, the Chiefs do not have that to those type of receivers right now. They're obviously missing Xavier Worthy. They got Hollywood Brown today, and they got I don't even know
Tyquan Thornton. They got Juju Smith-Schuster. Yeah,
it's not great. But what do you think of that secondary today, John? They do have the great equalizer in Patrick Mahomes. What do you think of that matchup coming into the game?
Yeah, I'd called it a plaster game because to Dan's point, that Patrick Mahomes is not going to run the football a ton. He generally saves it for big moments when he uses his legs for first down. But what he does do off schedule is these crazy plays that extend the play. He's still looking to throw the ball in the pockets. He's still looking for these broken coverages you saw in Brazil with Travis Kelce. So this is a whistle game from a defensive secondary perspective. You plaster those guys until the whistle blows because he's going to start scrambling around and trying to find the broken coverage. And that's what he does well, more than just the running aspect. He can run it. You saw him in Super Bowl 57. He gouges people all the time. But he generally saves that for big moments. And it might be, if it is in the fourth quarter and he needs a third down conversion, he might go get it. But he's not going to do that consistently like Jalen Hurts is going to do that. That part to me is the plaster part. Don't think because you have a guy covered for 3 seconds that he's not going to break free, extend the play, and look downfield to make a big play. And that's where the Eagles did so well in the Super Bowl with the pass rush and dominating. They didn't do that week one. They don't have Josh Sweat anymore. They don't have Milton Williams anymore, so it's more difficult. But I do want to say to the 7 edge rusher point, that's more concerned with me with roster building. They're not rotating guys. My whole point is Azeez Ojulari and Obo, they haven't been active yet. So why are they here? Now you need some depth, but you don't need 7 guys. And obviously Patrick Johnson's a part of that, but he's more of a special teams player. And now you settle in with your 4-man rotation, which is going to be Nolan Smith, Zadarius Smith, Jalen Hunt, and Josh Uche. I think Josh Uche was phenomenal. He might have been the Eagles' best defensive player when you talk about snap to snap, but he only played 19 snaps. He's not a full-time guy. So I think, Zadarius Smith, and to Dan's point, yes, you got to get the conditioning up, especially for a 33-year-old. He has been working out. This was his plan. He didn't want to do the offseason stuff. He wanted to save his legs. So he's geared up to go, but you still have to be careful with it. I think things fall into place. Look, I said it for a long time, and you know this, Zander. People were skipping steps on Jalen Hunt. He is not ready to be a 3-down edge rusher in this league. That doesn't mean he doesn't have a ceiling. He does have a ceiling. I think the most interesting thing about Jalen Hunt, because of his history, and Vic Fangio said this on multiple occasions, people think because he's an athlete and he used to be a safety at Cornell, that he's a better pass rusher than a run defender. It's been the exact opposite. He's better at setting the edge than a pass rusher. And Vic said that early on last year when he was forced in. And if you think about when he first had to play, he was just playing on first and second down, and then they moved him out in third down, obvious passing situation. I think that's what they're going to do now. He's the starter. He's going to play on those downs. And then when it's obvious pass, then here comes Zadarius Smith, who has a long history of getting home in this league. He is a finisher. He is going to be a big upgrade. I think he steps into that building as the best edge rusher they have.
Yeah, seems both of you guys agree on that.
How about this, Xander, in this game, to remember something? They don't have a primary target like the Eagles have two primary targets. They've got a primary quarterback. And just like in Buffalo, that means what? They're going to spread the ball around because that's an Andy Reid trait, right? John, right? Think of this. Outside of Terrell Owens, his entire time, he had guys like what? FedEx. He had guys like James.
But he learned. He learned. Remember, they had Tyreek Hill for a lot of years there. And they were the most explosive team in football.
And then they got rid of him, and they still won 2 Super Bowls.
That's true, but they've always had playmakers. Right now, you look at it, and maybe when Rashee Rice gets back, maybe when Xavier Worthy gets healthy, Rashee is obviously suspended. Maybe they get better later in the season. But right now, you're talking about Hollywood Brown, you're talking about Juju Smith-Schuster, you're talking about Tyquan Thornton, and you're talking about a descending Travis Kelce.
There's right the problem, John. It's the tight end getting older because Andy Reid, his entire time in Philly, always went through the tight end. And with the age of the tight end, they won a Super Bowl with names like that a couple years ago. They went back-to-back Super Bowls and been to 3 with names like that without Tyreek Hill. I will say it's the tight end that is causing this passing game, I think, to be diminished. In my opinion, man, he's holding that offense back right now because I heard you, John, say it this week. That dude is not the same guy. He is not the same guy any longer.
No. So I'm with you that Mahomes is the great equalizer, but I got to side with John here just in the sense of I think they went too far. He can't do it alone. You know, I don't see who they have out there to be able to compete with the Eagles today. Now, that doesn't mean the Eagles are going to go out there and beat them up, but I think they went too far on Mahomes. I don't know what they're
part of it's circumstance. I mean, Rice was an idiot in his personal life and he's suspended. Worthy got hurt. So those guys can make plays. Now, I'm not saying they're AJ Brown type receivers, but they can make plays. They're dangerous. So part of it is just circumstance, but they still have Noah Gray, who's very good backup tight end. Kelce still, he has this unbelievable chemistry with Mahomes, and they freelance. So a lot of times that screws up a defense because, you have these rules and scramble situations that players are typically taught to do. And Kelce might just freelance, and Mahomes seems to have an innate sense that he's going to freelance. That's what happened last week with the Chargers, and they gave up a big blown coverage for a touchdown. So you still have to be wary. But,
John, who do you think they're going to use to primarily cover Travis Kelce today?
Well, it's generally got to be a safety, so they're not going to waste Reed. So it's going to have to be Makuba, or it's going to have to be Sidney Brown in the base defense, which is sort of advantage. And it's not going to work long term. Look, I like that people are excited. I mean, that's like, when people got excited when Saquon got here in the receiving game, and you don't need a third receiver. I'm like, that's a day off for an NFL wide receiver, for an NFL slot cornerback to cover a running back. That's a day off. Same thing with a linebacker and tight end. That's a day off for the tight end.
Yeah.
The best coverage linebacker, that's a day off for a good tight end.
How about this year, Xander? Remember last year when a veteran wide receiver was going after Cooper DeJean? Okay, when you got young dudes that don't know how to get back there yet, and this is their second NFL football game, I don't care how old you are. You know how to run routes. You know how to find space. The quarterback moves around to be able to create passing lanes. I mean, he may be the better athlete right now, but who's the more skilled NFL player? Kelce there. So if you don't have skilled people back there understanding zones, understanding drop leverages, and also length, of how you have to get back in your drops. Look, I'm with John and everyone else. I think this kid by week 8 is probably going to be a weapon for Vic Fangio, but let him get acclimated to the game a little bit, especially the game tempo also.
Absolutely.
But what I'm trying to say is even when he becomes a weapon, you don't want that matchup against good tight ends. That's just unfair too. Now, sometimes it's going to happen. You see him running the pole in Tampa too. Sometimes you have to do that and you get matched up against and mismatches. And sometimes guys like that are able to make up. But I'm trying to say, if you're going to do it consistently, and Vic would never do that. He knows. Nobody knows better than Vic Fangio. You never do that kind of stuff because you're putting your guy in bad positions. Obviously, sometimes you have to do it. Jonathan Gannon, I always loved, he said, tough duty, man. And NFL offenses put you in a position where certain guys are going to have tough duty on a certain play.
Right.
And the great players persevere when it's that tough, but you don't want it done consistently is what I'm trying to say.
Right. You're not looking for it. That's not the one you're looking to go to.
Let me ask you, John, where do you think the holes in the secondary, or where do you think the holes in the defense are right now, the Eagles going into week 2 versus a quarterback like Mahomes and a coordinator like Andy Reid? Where do you think those holes are?
Well, people are tired of me already talking about the Green Bay Packers, but I'm going to talk about the Green Bay Packers to give this example. Everybody's talking about how, that they don't have cornerbacks. They lost Alexander. It's Kerryon Valentine, Keyshawn Nixon, who are solid players, but they're not Patrick Surtain. You don't know it. You certainly haven't seen it the first 2 weeks because they got to cover for 3 seconds, and there's the pass rush. Bang. It's there every single time, consistently. You saw that in the Super Bowl. Man, take away what the Eagles did so successfully in the Super Bowl, take away that first read from Patrick Mahomes, and then the pass rush was there. Play over. They don't have that. They don't have that yet. They don't have that rush and cover and rush, that coupling, that marriage that you need when you have a truly great defense. And
like you had in 22, John, like when you guys had 70 sacks and all of a sudden you had that high volume of pressure. Look at the secondary guys back in 22. That's kind of the point and really the metric there. There was so much great pressure that year. You could put James Bradbury back there because the routes weren't getting developed.
Yeah, it was not only could you put him back, there was a second team stinking all pro because he looks so good.
Right.
And that's the point. You're seeing it early in the season with Green Bay, with Keyshawn. These guys look like world beaters. Why? Because there's no double moves. There's no extending play, Micah, Rashawn Gary, etc. Even Lucas Van Ness is turning into a player now. They're always there. And that's what the Eagles had in the Super Bowl. And that's what they had in the 2022 season. That pass rush. So sometimes the pass rush is better than the coverage. Sometimes the coverage is better than the pass rush. But one's got to help out the other and vice versa. And when you really have something special was last year with the Eagles. Great pass rush, great coverage. Then it's special. They could both hold their own for the most part. Right now, the Eagles don't have that. Very few teams have that, but maybe they grow into it. Zadarius Smith is going to help. I really believe that. Now, ultimately, they're going to have to get to Jacorian Bennett. I don't know when Vic's going to pull that trigger. It's not going to be today. Ultimately, they have to probably make sure that Drew Makuba's up to speed. I don't know when that's going to happen, but that's obviously the goal. But right now, they don't have that same coupling they had, back in February.
Yep, no doubt. Let's move over to the Eagles' offensive side of the ball. Sills, coming to you, man. A lot of talk about Kevin Patullo, a lot of talk about A.J. Brown and DeVonta Smith and their usage in week number 1. That was a Jalen Hurts game. You don't have him, you don't win that football game. What do you think the offense is going to do today? What's your expectation for Patullo, for AJ, and for DeVonta, and for that passing game here in week 2?
I would say this to you that, a week ago, Eberflus, as I said, did a sensational job at shutting down 2 components of that offensive attack of Petullo's. Again, they shut down DeVonta, they shut down AJ, they shut down the run game. The off-script stuff is what was really the essential thing that moved the sticks.
Right.
Hurts looked like 2022. When he plays a game like that, and what I love the most about him is how he saw the game. He saw that what they were doing and eventually figured that out, and that's how Dotson and Goddard became a factor in that football game on beating the Cowboys. Now you don't have Goddard in the middle of the football field now. Now you take a component out. Not that Calcaterra can't catch, but if you're Spagnuolo, I'm not concerned that much with that dude as I was with Goddard being on the football field. That guy's got a nose for the ball. So to me, again, going after and getting the offense going, I have to get Saquon Barkley going. Okay? I don't want to have my quarterback be the number one running threat out there. I want it to get back to being physical at the point of attack. Let's go here. And you guys can look at the numbers. You take Hurts' numbers out of the run game, they were stuffed. I mean, they were stuffed in that game.
I think Saquon had like 18 for 60.
Right. I mean, so without Hurts being off script. So to me, Kevin Petullo, I mean, this is why I asked you guys, do you think they overcompensate? Do you think they overcorrect? Are they really going to start? I mean, do you try to get the ball to AJ? Now, to me, I do. You know why? AJ Brown in space? Well, I'll take that every damn day on any moment, anywhere on the planet. Do a wheel route. Get it out to him. Let's see him in space.
Well, is that on Petullo then? Do you think that becomes on Petullo?
Well, you tell me. They stuffed them. I saw 4 passes last week that Hurts missed, that the guy was standing there wide open. Okay, Jalen missed a couple passes. I'm not blaming him or anyone. I'm just saying that
he didn't miss any through. Now he might have not pulled the trigger.
Right,
he was like 19 of 20. That wasn't
again 19 of 20 to Dotson and Goddard is not going to win you an NFC championship.
John, how do you see this? How do you see this offense in week 2 and kind of the
I mean, well, the correction, they have a history of self-correcting after games like that. Nick always goes back to the season opener in Detroit where DeVonta didn't catch a pass, and the next week he went off and he had 2 touchdowns and 6 or 7 receptions, 160 yards. So they're going to overcorrect. They always do. I do think they're going to get AJ and DeVonta involved early. But they're going to be the Philadelphia Eagles, I always say. And first and foremost, it's the run game. So, if you have another game like you have last week, people are going to start panicking over Saquon already. Start talking about, you're going to hear the touches. He's not the same guy. So, and he looks completely fine. I said, in training camp, he looked better than he did last year from a juice perspective and things like that. So I don't think it's anything physical, but, Dallas played a bunch of heavy boxes and they were able to stop them and, complement it with rolling coverage AJ's way. So, typically in that situation, if you spend that much time playing zone, the Eagles are going to gouge you with the running game. For whatever reason, they couldn't do it last week, except for Jalen. They got to do it this week if Kansas City comes out with a similar mindset. They're always going to be a run-first team with this buildup. And by that, I mean the quarterback, the offensive line, the running back. That's what they're going to lean on.
Yeah, John, you know what they do look different, though? When Landon is not 100% and you don't have Becton in there, again, it's 60 minutes. September's a liar's month. So I'm not going to go nuts here with this here and go crazy. But, boy, I'll tell you, the push doesn't look the same as it did a year ago without Becton and a healthy Landon in there. And I mean, you go into this game and you made the ultimate point this week about Landon. If you got an injured Landon, you got an injured Landon and you've got a first-year starter from game 1 to the rest of the season in Tyler Steen. Boy, that's a far cry from a healthy Landon and Dickerson of a year ago with Cam in the middle in there, man. And I thought that thing reared its head. Let's see how that looks in this game, and you have a better defensive tackle in this game with Chris Jones in the middle there. That's not the offensive interior line we saw 9 months ago. It's just not right now.
No, it's not, and most of it has to do with Landon's health. I do think Mekhi's better. You know, you're going to see more highlight pancake blocks from Mekhi Becton than you are from Tyler Steen. But you know, highlights are highlights. It doesn't. You know, you're looking for consistency. But so many of those big Saquon runs you saw right in the middle was a big pancake from Mekhi Becton. So I don't want to dismiss him as a run blocker either, but they need to be better in the traditional run game, and because that's their strength, and I think they will be.
John, is that play calling?
Not necessarily. I mean, I thought I said I came out of that game when I was talking to you guys in the postgame show, and my immediate thought was, wow, that was pretty efficient from Jalen's perspective. And part of that was, you know, getting into the right calls. Should it be run? Just doing the math. Should it be run? Should it be pass? Should it be cannon plays? Should it be running what's called? So I think all of that worked well. I just think, you know, I think Landon didn't play well. I think, you know, Saquon wasn't good in pass protection. I think the Eagles didn't handle the zone coverage very well. I do think, you know, there are times, this is the NFL, as you know, Dan, this isn't college where guys are running open. So you have these very small windows where the ball's got to come out on time. And if it doesn't come out on time, well, all of a sudden you're covered up again, and you don't even know what could have been.
Hey, John, there are portholes in the NFL and there are barn door openings in college football. Exactly. There's the difference between the two levels of play.
Yeah, no doubt.
So there's a lot of times when the ball should be out, it's not out. But I think overall they made the right decisions when it came to, you know, because most of the modern NFL, you go up and you have two plays, and you can, whether pass is the primary option, you can the run or vice versa. And from that perspective, they made the right decisions, I think. And they persevered, but we're probably in panic mode if CD Lamb could catch the football. That's how close this league is. And he typically catches the football. So that's how drastically things can go. And I do think the Eagles, and obviously we'll talk about our predictions. I do think the Eagles are going to win this game, but you know, it's amazing, these two particular teams. You know, Hurts inched in front of Patrick Mahomes. So if you talk about winning percentage from the quarterback, so Jalen's 38-10 since 2022 as a starter. So that's 792. Patrick is 39-11, 780. If you look at Philadelphia, they have the best road record in the NFL since 2021, except for Kansas City. They're 24-10. Kansas City's 25-10. You know, you look at all these statistics. The Eagles have the second highest interconference winning percentage. So they're 16-4 against the AFC since 2021. The only team ahead of them, Kansas City, against the NFC, they're 17-3. These two teams, all they do is win. And to Zander's point, as he started out, Patrick Mahomes doesn't lose 3 games in a row. So I'm not saying by any stretch that Kansas City can't win this game, but I think they're up against it from a talent standpoint right now.
No doubt about it. Sills, you were a defensive tackle in your heyday, obviously won a national championship as a defensive tackle on one of the most dominant college teams in history. Well, we're getting Jaylen Carter back today, Sills. How much impact can just the return of Jaylen Carter make on that defense today?
Well, let me go back and give you a little lesson here, and history lesson on the last 10 Super Bowls. Name me a predominant edge rusher in the NFL that has won a Super Bowl in the last 10. Okay, name me one. You can't. I'll tell you this: over the last 10 Super
Is it
Bowls,
Von Miller? Is that the last? Really?
he wasn't in the last 10. But the last 10 Super Bowls, you've had Aaron Donald, you've had Jaylen Carter, you've had Fletcher Cox, you have had Vince Wilfork, you've had interior defensive line play that have been dominant. And what's the number one place where you create havoc, even with Tom Brady? Internal pressure. The internal pressure is what a lot of great quarterbacks struggle with. Now, when this guy learns technique and he continues, and we said it since draft day, he's got so many things that remind me of Jerome and how he moves his feet, his hands, and his tenacity and how he plays and how he occupies more than one guy. His lateral movement is great. Plus, what else does it help? The linebacker play is going to be better. Scraping, going back and forth, up and down the line. And what else in a Vic Fangio defense is important? He has a backbone and a spine on his defense. He wants to be strong up the middle. Look at a year ago how strong they were with Davis and Carter and with Dean and with Bond and with Reed and with CJ. That was the spine of the defense. That's what really created a lot of tough passing lanes a year ago where there wasn't really wide open guys. Tight ends and people didn't have a lot of space a year ago. Carter creates that. There is no doubt the impact that a guy like that has on a football game. Look, you got to circle him, just like you did with Aaron Donald. You have to circle these certain players that are impact guys, especially a player like that. You know what I'd really like to see, Vic, and he won't do it. I'd like to see him moving him around a little more on some mismatches in there because Kansas City, in my opinion, has a mismatch on the left guard. And I'd like to see him going against that guy a little bit or move the guy around a little bit. But that's not what he does. He keeps things in a base style look. So, but he is the centerpiece of that defense, in my opinion. How he goes and how that – look at how it looked last week. Look at how it looked. I mean, there was no question about it. The Dallas Cowboys were able to move the football. They had 118 yards rushing. I couldn't tell you who runs the ball, John. I don't know who runs the ball in Dallas, and they still almost had 120 yards.
Unfortunately, Miles Sanders, because he had the big fumble. But
he sure did. Hey, thank God Dak made that tackle, or Quinyon Mitchell's hitting his head on the goalpost because that guy was taking it back to the house.
Yeah. John, coming to you on Jaylen Carter, still is good stuff there. Your thoughts on how much of an impact he will be or can be for this defense. Look, defense looked really good in the second half last week. They gave up 0 points in the second half, so it took them a little bit. But now with the addition of Jaylen Carter, how much does that mean today, John?
Well, I mean, huge. I talk about him all the time. This is the most talented Eagles defensive lineman since Reggie White, period. The things he can do from a physical perspective. That doesn't mean he's gotten to that level. And Vic even talked about it. In a lot of ways, he doesn't even know what he's doing yet. So if he ever matches the technique up with the physical ability and the fundamentals, look out. I have been and over the past couple of weeks, I make sure to say he's the most talented because the best player on this defense is Zach Bond. That dude is unbelievable.
Hey, John, did you think you'd be saying you and me both said this last year in that Green Bay game? That guy ain't making 17 tackles ever again in his entire life. He needs to put that thing in his back pocket. And here we are going like this. And John, I agree 100%. This dude's a machine, man.
I mean, sometimes because pedigree is a big thing in the NFL. Sometimes you need the opportunity to prove yourself, and sometimes you never get the opportunity.
That's right.
We'll never know. People that are stuck in New Orleans, they probably still haven't played special teams and rushing off the edge occasionally. For whatever reason, Vic got him and said, and by the way, that's why Howie signed him. Howie signed him to be a special teams player and a backup edge rusher. And he admits it. And Vic got him and said, you know what? I think he's got such good instincts. I think he can play stack linebacker. I think he can play off the ball. And boy, was he right. I mean, that's the guy who was the finalist for Defensive Player of the Year.
Crazy.
That's the guy who was ahead of Fred Warner as, the highest graded PFF linebacker in football. And that's the guy who keeps making plays every single week. And that's the guy who can run down Miles Sanders. And people know from Miles, he's not what he was when he was here, but he can run. And to have a linebacker run down, hit 20 miles an hour wherever he hit, to run down a running back in the open field. And Vic gave him play of the game for that. And it ended up giving the Eagles an opportunity to stop them and force that fumble by making that play. So I do hesitate now, and I say Zach Bond to me is clearly the best Eagles defender, and maybe Jaylen Carter will get there, but Jaylen Carter's the most talented Eagles defender, and there are times where the talent takes over, and guys can't deal with them. But, we all know what happened. It's over now. Turn the page. But let's be honest, part of reaching your ceiling as a player is having maturity and understanding what you need to do, what you need to work on. And guess what? Number one, be there for your team. So obviously, I don't expect him to do anything silly today. He's going to play, obviously, and he's probably going to play well. But there are some things now that you have to worry about with Jaylen Carter. Let's be honest with that as well.
Reputation.
Yeah. And by the way, I guarantee you, Dan, again, can speak to this. There are offensive linemen in this league. That is the smartest, savviest group as a whole in this league, offensive linemen. And they will pick at you. If they think that you are going to lose your shit, even if it's 15 yards, they will pick at you.
Hey, John, you know what they do? You're getting off the ground. You know what an offensive lineman will do? He'll step on your fingers.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you jump up and you're like, and then all of a sudden you put your hand up, the ref's on you.
Yeah.
And they're going and they're falling down like they belong in a skit somewhere on stage at Broadway. And you're going like, God dang, he got me. These guys are the smartest dudes on knowing. They know how to hold. They'll take a look at the line judge, John. If the guy's lined up here, you know what they'll do? They'll take this hand and hold you and pull you here and show you this. These guys are the savviest dudes on the planet. And to John's point, don't get that reputation like Adama Sue, where that, you know what, all of a sudden you have these off-script character moments, because that's detrimental to your football team. Availability, like we always talk about. Well, bro, don't be a dumbass.
Yeah, and the other side of it,
I don't want that on my team, especially a guy I'm going to give $38 million to.
Yeah, and the other side of it, too, is a lot of talk about, will Jaylen Carter start getting the calls this year because he hasn't quite earned his way to earn
Not
some
likely.
of the – now it's almost like the refs might be looking to go against Jaylen Carter as opposed to giving him the benefit of the doubt on some of those holding calls where he inevitably gets held. So that's going to be interesting. John, coming back to you, we just talked about some of the intricacies of the defense, some of the specific players on defense. As a whole, what's Vic Fangio's plan today to try and slow down this Chiefs offense? Not a lot of playmakers, but still Mahomes. How do you manage it if you're Vic?
Well, before I get in, I do want to give my buddy Jim Sports a little shout out, because I always laugh when I think about, you remember when Nigel Bradham got in the Cabana Boy incident? One of the great quotes of all time from Jim Schwartz: you do dumbass things, pretty soon you're going to be labeled a dumbass. That's where I think, that's where, and by the way, Nigel recovered from that and learned from it. So, there's a chance it goes both ways, but you have to keep your eye on that. As far as stopping the Kansas City offense, I don't know, line up. I'm joking. They don't have skill. They don't have play. Even Isaiah Pacheco, like, they have to play a certain way now. Again, I always talk about margin of error because I think it's a big thing in the NFL. Used to be, you give the ball to Kansas City, they have the ball last, they're going to win. Well, they might still win, but you need the ball last and you only need one score. That's the problem with Kansas City now. Pacheco, he's a chain mover, good, hard runner. I like him, but he's not explosive. He's not going to gash you for 40 yards like Saquon can. Saquon will go 60, 70. He's not that type of running back. We mentioned the receivers. They're not, Tyquan Thornton can run, but he's not very good. And that's why he doesn't play typically. Hollywood Brown is probably a good third receiver. He's number 1 today. Juju Smith-Schuster, again, I'm very careful because for an NFL wide receiver, he's slow. For a normal human being, he's obviously fast. For an NFL wide receiver, he's very slow. We mentioned Kelsey, a little bit of he's almost 36 years old.
He looks it too.
Playing a position where, you can play quarterback now because they protect you. And Aaron Rodgers is still out there and all these older quarterbacks. You can play even offensive line like Andrew Whitworth and, played at a high level right up until he retired. We're seeing that with Lane Johnson. There are certain positions you can play. When you have to run, and receiving tight ends have to run, it's very difficult for them to get to that age and not have a sort of downtick. So they have to keep this game close in the fourth quarter and then try to steal it. But from an Eagles defensive perspective, like everybody's concerned about Adoree Jackson, everybody's concerned about what's going on at safety. I would say if things go well today, don't assume they're fixed because this might be the worst group of receivers you see all season. Really?
Yeah, it's that bad right now. Sills, your thought on Vic Fangio's approach to the game today, slowing down that Kansas City offense?
Well, do me a favor, Zander. Can you remember the Super Bowl that they won against the Eagles? Can you name the wide receivers that were in that game for the Kansas City Chiefs?
Kadarius Toney, Juju Smith-Schuster was out there.
Juju made a big play.
Kind of sounds like the same group to me, doesn't it? I mean, these guys, listen, everyone's going to say Rashid. Dude, I'm not going to make Rashid Rice sound like Jerry Rice. That guy's a good football player, but that's not Jerry Rice. There's no primary targets, which means what? Okay, when you have A.J. Brown and you have DeVonta, you're going to those two dudes with the Philadelphia Eagles. When you got CeeDee Lamb, you know where you're going with the ball with the Cowboys. You've got some inexperienced dudes in the secondary back there that this will be their second football game that they've ever played. And you've got an experience at that safety position. In my opinion, pressure is the key in this game to what John said earlier here. If they don't get pressure, like they didn't get pressure on Dak Prescott, you think Mahomes is not going to sit back there in the two-deep zone and not find open space? That guy is a generational talent. That's not Dak Prescott. He doesn't need CeeDee Lamb. Remember, he's a generational quarterback. He doesn't have generational players except for the old tight end who's now old. But that guy's going to find those weaknesses. Pressure is the equalizer to every hole you have on your defense. Yep. You get to the quarterback, you put them on their back. That's what was in that Super Bowl 9 months ago, was the pressure and the setting of the edge. You let Mahomes sit back there and pitch and catch. I don't care if it's with you, Zander. He's going to find you a spot to get open in because that's who that guy is and that's who Andy Reid is. So today, in my opinion, keep an eye on the pressure. I really didn't think the Eagles had really good pressure on Dak, at least for a quarter and a half before they took over a little bit around 7 minutes left in the ball game. It was really after the weather delay that I thought that they really settled down, were able to get some pressure on them. And still, Dak had the ball in his hands with a fourth quarter football game. Kansas City wants to make this a fourth quarter game because they know they don't match up roster-wise, right? You get in a fourth quarter game. Patrick Mahomes, you got a problem there a little bit when you got Patrick Mahomes in the fourth quarter. The Eagles had the roster to put him away. Okay? Pressure, in my opinion, is the key to this game today.
No doubt about it. Good stuff, guys. 5 minutes left here in the JAKIB Pregame Show. I want to thank and welcome everybody for being here. Don't forget to hit that like button. All right, drop your comments down below. I will make sure we got all of our super chats as well today. Carson said, what do you expect from Zadarius today? Carson, we hit that right at the open. I think Zadarius is going to have a big day here for the Eagles, or at least get a lot of opportunities to have a big day today. So good stuff there. We'll get our predictions here to close out the pregame show and get ready. We're about 30 minutes from kickoff, everybody. It's a 4:25 kickoff today. Eagles favored on the Chiefs' home turf, as Sileo said, only the second time they've been underdogs at their home place at Arrowhead. So going to be an interesting matchup today. John, I'm going to start with you, man, on the predictions, but I don't just want your prediction. Give me one deciding factor in the game today, as well as your prediction for the Eagles versus Chiefs Week 2 Super Bowl rematch.
Well, just that point, and Dan's right. I mean, they, Juju Smith-Schuster was in Super Bowl 57. Kadarius Toney, as you mentioned, and Sky Moore, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So it wasn't Tyreek Hill either. And if you think about Corn Dog and Andy ran it twice and blown coverages in the fourth quarter, that's a big part of it as well. The last time the Eagles were there in the regular season, 2023, they won. And then the collapse started. The end of the season. So I do think they'll find a way to win the game, and I think they'll win the game because I think explosives are going to be in their advantage. The Eagles look at two stats. That's it. I say it all the time. Turnover ratio, they're very ball security contrast, almost to a fault, I think, ever since week 4 and the bye last season. They're a little bit too cautious, and that's part of the reason they don't take as many chances in the passing game, but they're very conscious when it comes to ball security. An explosive play battle is the second one. When you win those two categories, you win over 90% of NFL games. They're definitely going to win the explosive play battle. Definitely. They generally take care of the football to a fault. I think they'll do it again. Now, noise is a big problem. Penalties are big. You got to limit the false starts. You don't want to be behind the sticks. It wouldn't shock me at all if Kansas City won this game, but I do think the Eagles are the better team. I think they'll find a way to win the game, but it's not going to be overt. It's not going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be more of a 24-18-ish game.
Good stuff. John has the Eagles winning 24-18 in a tight one. Good stuff there. Johnny Mac Sills, coming to you, brother. Your key to the game here and your prediction for week number 2, Eagles versus Chiefs.
Time of possession. Okay. Time of possession for me favors Philly here. Why? Run game. Keep that guy over there, limit his touches, have about 65 to 70 plays in this game, and limit Mahomes to about 56 to 62 plays. You're going to win the time of possession because, again, keeping him over there, to me, fourth quarter football game, I'm taking Mahomes over Hurts and that offense and that defense any day, man. This guy has won 3 Super Bowls, 3 MVPs. They're one of the great teams in the last 10 years, 15 years. Don't give that team an opportunity to stay alive. Put them to sleep early in this game. I'm going to walk back a little bit. I said 34-17. I think I'm with John. I think this is going to be more like a 28-17 type of game.
That was my score.
I think, I'm still going Eagles in this game, but I'm going 28-17. That instead of 34-17, I'm going to come back to the reality a little bit because it is at home. They are going to be in a desperate mode too. Let's face it. They just lost the divisional game that they had to the Chargers. Both John and I believe, John, I'm not speaking for you, but we're picking the Chargers to win that West. I'm picking the Chargers to win the West because of Jim Harbaugh. This is desperation time. They can't fall behind 0-2 on the season. 0-3, the chances of you coming back and making it to the postseason are limited. So I'm going 28-17, win the time of possession, take care of the football. Hurts has done a great job since week 5 of last year on taking care of the ball. If they do that, they should come out of this game with a 2-0 record.
Yep, I agree. And I think that Chargers are Monday night. I think they're the second game on a Monday night. It's back to. I think there's a doubleheader here on Monday night tomorrow.
Buccaneers and Texans are the early game.
Right, yeah. Buccaneers, Texans, and you got Chargers.
I don't like that second Monday night game. Stop that.
I know. They got the West Coast team. Yeah, but you're on the West Coast, so at least it starts at 7 p.m.
Right. John, hey, I always love those late games on the East Coast, John. I hate to say this to you. John's there at 3 a.m. I'm like, not too bad for Big Sil.
Yeah, not 3 hours back. You're good, man. Perfect stuff.
By the way, the Detroit Lions got a 50 spot up. Woo! Again, pointing to that Green Bay team might be for real.
And Ben Johnson might not be.
Yeah.
Ben Johnson not looking good there.
Hey, John, he lost a 17-6 lead to Minnesota, and now he had a 50-burger put on him. I don't know what they're saying in Chicago right now.
No, it can't be good. Mike North can't be happy.
No.
Guys, great show today. Great pregame show. Enjoy the game. We're about 24 minutes from kickoff, so that'll be happening soon. Appreciate both of you guys doing it today. John, I'll talk to you on the halftime show, and I'll talk to both of you guys on the postgame show. Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks.
Have a great game.
All right, there's Johnny Mack and Big Sills joining us right here in the JAKIB Pregame Show as we get ready to kick off week number 2, Eagles versus Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium. How about Big Sills taking my score? I hit him with that score on his show on Friday, 28-17, and he drops that score as the prediction. That's my prediction as well, guys. 28-17, Birds win the football game. I don't think the Chiefs have enough firepower to stay with the Eagles today. I really don't, and I think the defense is going to look much better with Jaylen Carter out there. The one spot the Cowboys looked okay last week and that our defense didn't look good was because they had receivers. They had George Pickens. They had CeeDee Lamb. And CeeDee Lamb, even with all the drops, still had over 100 yards receiving. Take that away from the Chiefs offense. I don't know what they're going to be able to do. Put Carter back in the middle. That pressure's coming. I don't think that Chiefs offense has nearly enough to hang with this Eagles team. So I got 28-17 for the Birds winning the football game today. Should be a good one. What's going on in week 2? I'm going to get out of here real quick. I got to set up. I'm going to remind everybody the JAKIB Green Zone. So if you need a companion to watch the game with, all right, go and listen to the JAKIB Green Zone. Joe Krause will be calling the game. He'll be doing the play-by-play. All right, he'll be doing the play-by-play for the Eagles versus Chiefs week number 2. That'll be airing right here on JAKIB Sports. All right, so stay tuned, everybody. For that, I'll take a couple comments before I get out of here. How about the Giants and the Cowboys? Down to the 2-minute warning. Is it on my screen? It is not. Let me see if I can put that on here and watch this. What is that on? Fox, probably? That's got to be on Fox, right? Let me put that on here and see what's going on. Giants, Cowboys. Giants have the lead 30-27 with 1:55 to go. Boy, Dak Prescott, man. And the Cowboys, they're going to stink. Brian Pumper, hey, fellas, hopefully we don't lose too bad. Pumper winning this football game. That's ridiculous. He's got the Chiefs 34-16. Pumper with another shit take today. All right. So good stuff, everybody. Appreciate you guys being here. As always, week number 2, not that great. The best game of the weekend, in my estimation, is coming up with the Eagles and the Chiefs Super Bowl rematch. You had that good Thursday night game, but outside of that, I think this is the best game of the Sunday slate today is the Eagles and the Chiefs. So a lot of people are going to be locked in on the Super Bowl rematch. I'm looking forward to it. I think the Eagles are ready to go, man. I think the Eagles are going to handle their business today in this football game. So make sure you guys stay tuned. We got tons of content coming up on JAKIB Sports, as we always do. We got the Green Zone. We got the JAKIB Halftime Show. Johnny Mack and I will be live for about 10-15 minutes at halftime, and then we'll have the JAKIB Postgame Show. All three of us, John, Sills, and myself, will be live for the JAKIB Postgame Show right when the game concludes. John is not in Kansas City, so he's going to be on for the full postgame show for the full 90-minute show, and then we'll do a brief JAKIB postgame show with a couple guys as well. Won't go too long on that, but we will do that as well. So a lot of content coming up here today. Enjoy the week 2 matchup, everybody. Eagles should be in a good position to start the year 2-0, and if they handle their business today, in my opinion, they will be 2-0 after the dust settles from today. Appreciate you guys watching. See you next time, everybody.
Ignite your nights with free live entertainment daily, only at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia's Center Bar. 7 days a week, enjoy some of the region's top party bands, performers, and DJs as they take the stage in the heart of the casino action. Great cocktails, live music, and lively moments. It's all happening at Center Bar at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia. Visit livecasinophilly.com for more details and the complete list of upcoming events. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
This is Eric. When he got injured in a car accident, he called Morgan & Morgan. He not only gets a lawyer, he gets trial lawyers like Sam and Jessica who are in it to win it. He gets his own investigators with briefcases, leather ones. And if you ever have questions, our customer service folks keep things rolling. Injured? We're your army. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
Welcome to the Jet Setters and the High Rollers, to the Shot Takers and the tastemakers. Welcome to the viewfinders, the thrill seekers, and the night owls. Welcome to everything you could possibly want on one 5-mile island. Welcome to the Wildwoods. Book your stay today.
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We go the extra mile to lend a helping hand.
Thank you.
We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong. We've been deeply rooted in our communities for more than 85 years. And that connection to members has earned us our spot as the #1 health insurer in the region. So while you look out for your neighbors, know IBX is always looking out for you.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on Sports Grid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
EAGLES. Eagles.